Hi, this is Auntie Stine. Today I'm going to share with you a story that a missionary lady called Helen experienced. It is a very nice story with lots of things to learn. I hope you will enjoy it. Only trust him. My family had been in Africa as missionaries for a long time when one day we got a special letter. The letter told us that it was time to return home to the United States and that our time in Africa was coming to an end. It was sad in a way, but in another way I was happy. It's not so easy to live in Africa. We had got used to rats, bats, sickness like malaria, dirty water if there was any water at all, and a lot of other problems that missionaries face. Our 3 children were more than anxious to get back to the States and attend real school. I often laid awake at night, staring into the darkness and trying to remember what a hot shower felt like, or any shower at all for that matter. When you've lived in Africa for a while, you start to appreciate things like that much more. Many things we take for granted in our part of the world are things that others don't have. Maybe you should think about that next time you're having a hot shower. At the same time, we had come to love the African people, so it was a bit sad to leave too. Then came the day when our kids discovered the date we were supposed to leave Africa. October, Mum! We can't go back in October! It's not up to us. That's when Dad's work ends. There's nothing we can do about it. The children were not listening. School will already be started, one cried. Everybody will already have their friends, will be the newcomers, wailed another. We have to get back before the school starts. We have to go by the beginning of August at least, chimed the eldest. Later that evening, I heard my girls talking in their bedroom. What are we going to do? Asked my second daughter softly. Well, Mum said to pray, answered the oldest, so I prayed. I told God that if He gets us there in time to start school, with the rest of the kids I'll believe in Him. If He can't do that, I'm never going to pray again. I could hardly breathe. It was so scary to hear what my daughter had just said. I knew it was not a good prayer, but at the same time I so wanted God to answer her prayer so her faith could get stronger. I cried out to God, Father, you have to show my child that you care about the things that are important to them. You have to. Tucked into the mosquito net around our bed, my husband and I softly discussed the problem. At length we hit a solution. The kids and I would simply have to go back to the States in the summer, leaving my husband to follow when his job was done. We got the permission from my husband's employers to go ahead of my husband and to get settled in for the school year. We planned for and looked forward to the day we would travel. One day my husband and I left the children at home and drove into a city because we had some errands we needed to get done. As we picked up the mail, we found out that my husband's father had sent us a telegram. That's kind of a special letter. The letter was not long. It said, travel together, not wise to go separately, better to wait, prayerfully, Dad. I did not like the message, as the children and I had so hoped to get to the States before school would start. I was especially thinking about the scary prayer of my oldest daughter. So what do you think we should do? I asked my husband. I don't like to disregard Dad's advice. He's a praying man. I haven't often seen him wrong, my husband answered. This answer was very, very hard to take. Over and over again, I asked the Lord what to do. It seemed like God was quiet, but when I tried to think about what He might want to say, all I could come up with was, honor thy father and thy mother. My husband's father had advised us not to travel separate, and he was more experienced than I. He had worked on the mission field for a long time. My husband respected his father and wanted to do what he had asked us to do. I thought it would be wrong to go against that. I struggled to make a decision, but finally I decided to follow my father-in-law's advice. It was so hard for the children to hear, and it was hard for me too. But God is a wonderful God who hears prayers and wants our very best. He had a way, an even better way. One day, in the end of April, we got a message from my husband's employers saying that we all could leave together near the beginning of June, just a few weeks away. Maybe we could get back to the States in time. Now there were other problems. A war had started in the neighbor country, and we did not have money for the flights, for the ticket to go home. We waited and waited for the money, but because of the war, the money did not come true. Also, so many people wanted to get out of the country to escape the war. I decided to pack our stuff, just in case. But my husband had other ideas. He wanted to leave all our books and household things behind to give to the African people. How can we pay money to get all this stuff back to America when it could be divided up to make so many people happy right here, he thought. And so we decided to give almost all our things away. Soon there was nothing left in the house but my husband, my 4 children and me, and whatever we could cram into 10 suitcases. We could have traveled with 12 bags, but my husband wanted to take only 10 because our youngest child was so small and it would be hard for him to carry the suitcase around. We made him the keeper of the umbrella and the foot bag. And we waited. Day after day, my husband would go to the airport and stand in line to buy tickets. It made little sense to me, since we had no money, but he thought he should at least try to book seats for us. And one day he came home and said he had reserved 6 seats. All we have to do is to go back tomorrow with the money, and we'll have our tickets, he said. But on the morrow there was no money, nor on the day after that. Over and over he went back to see if the money had arrived, but no. The people who had reserved the tickets for us told that they would not keep holding the seats unless he came with the money. Finally, one of Dad's employers went with him to the office and guaranteed that they would pay the money for the tickets when the money would arrive. It was quite amazing that they actually gave us the tickets only on the employer's promise, but they did. It wasn't until we were pressed back into our seats as the big old Airbus hurtled into the sky that I began to believe that we were actually on our way home to the States. What a blessing! We were flying without having paid for the tickets in seats that were impossible to book, at a time when we were not supposed to have permission to leave. We were all together, and there was time to get the kids to the new school before the fall semester started. To top it all off, we had not disobeyed God's commandments to honor our parents. How good God had been to us. Before we reached the school campus where our new home would be, we visited another area in the States where we had some relatives. In the evenings, our number 2 child played my sister-in-law's piano. And almost every evening, my sister-in-law's mother, Grandma Wee, would say, "Child, I just love to hear you play. Would you like to have an organ?" But my daughter would tell her she actually liked pianos and not organs. But dear old Grandma Wee would not give up. She tried to convince my husband to come and pick up her old organ anyway. "No," she said firmly, "I'm heading home. I'm just a little off the highway. So when you get down close to my place, you get a little trailer and stop for that organ. I really want you to have it." Now, I want to remind you that we had no furniture. We were going to move into a home where there were no beds, no tables, and no chairs, as we had given away all ours in Africa. The children started talking in the back seat. "We have furniture now," cried one. "We can use the organ bench for a table." "Indeed," chimed in another. "We can get some bookends and use the top of the organ for a bookshelf." "Well, it won't help anything with sleeping," said yet another. I'm not looking forward to sleeping on the floor." "Oh, but there'll be carpet. It won't be crumbly cement," affirmed the little one. "I can sleep on carpet. And there won't be any cockroaches or lizards." Before we reached Grandma Wee, we pulled off the highway to pick up the little truck we had reserved. My husband had reserved the smallest truck available, but our truck was not in the lot. The manager apologized. He didn't know why it had not come in. But there was nothing he could do about it. Would we be willing to take the truck he had available? It was the largest one he had. He would give it to us for the same price as the small one. It was the best he could do. So we decided to take the big truck. Soon we arrived at Grandma Wee. "You're all an answer to prayer," she shrilled as she saw us arriving with the big truck. "I was just asking the Lord what I was supposed to do with all this stuff, and I see that He has answered." What stuff was she talking about? Grandma Wee continued, "You know, my husband has died. Now I want to go and live with my daughter, and I just didn't know what to do with all this stuff," she said, and pointed to her home full of furniture and other useful things. "But now I know, so let's get busy." And we got busy. She had so many things. Soon we were on our way to our new home, with not only an organ, but a washer, a dryer, a king-size bed, a kitchen table, chairs, couches, recliners, lamps, dishes, ironing board, sewing supplies, a button box, kettles, silverware, artwork, linens, rugs, cleaning supplies, a sound system, a bookcase full of books, a bike, and many other things. On the road again, 2 of the kids were with my husband in the truck and 2 were with me. Everybody was tired out from the packing, so there wasn't much talk, but we were all thinking. After a while, I heard my oldest daughter talking to her sister. She said, "You remember what I prayed back in Africa? Well, I didn't think God would get us there on time, and I sure never dreamed He would make up for all the stuff that Dad made us leave in Africa. But I guess He does care about us more than I thought." It's hard to tell you how sweet those words sounded in a mother's ears. But my heart turned to Him in praise as we continued our journey to our new home. What do you think about this story?
I think it was very interesting.
Me too.
I have never been to Africa, but I would really like to go there one time. It must be very exciting.
I think it must be challenging though.
I actually went to Africa once with a group of people. We were a group of young people, not very experienced, and we were going to do some missionary work, and we were going to live in a house in the village, just, among the people. And I can tell you that was quite an experience. You should have seen our bathroom. It was really just like a square, and it was a hole in the ground, which was the toilet, and that's also where we should do our showers. So we had like a big kind of plastic container with water and a scoop, and that's where we were going to do our showers, where we were going to go to toilet, and sometimes it was even insects in there. And that was just a part of the challenges we had.
Auntie Stine, why do people go to places like that when it's so hard to live there?
That's a good question, Hannah. If you go to a place like that just to have fun, you'll probably be disappointed. But there is one thing. People everywhere, also in Africa, they need to hear about Jesus. And if you go there to tell them about Jesus and maybe help them with their health and their problems, then you can have really, really nice experiences. Even though it was a challenge to be in Africa, I had so many blessings there. And when I look back at the time, I'm so glad I went. So, to go there is a challenge, but the blessing can be even bigger than the challenges, because Jesus is so good to turn those situations into something good and help us to be a blessing to others.
Going to Africa for us may be a tiny little bit like when Jesus came from heaven to save us here on earth. He came from a very nice place, Well, all were happy and kind to a world where he met a lot of challenges. Don't you think so too?
Yes, John. I was thinking about that quite a bit after I'd been to Africa, because up there in heaven everything was pure and clean, everyone was nice to him, and then he came here to this earth, and that's a little bit like it was in Africa as well. You know, we left the nice things we had in our country to actually kind of do a few little sacrifices to help the people there. And when we see how much Jesus have done for us, we should actually be willing to do anything for him, even if it feels like little sacrifices.
Do you mean sacrifices like warm showers, running water, and cleanliness?
Yes, exactly those kind of things, Hannah.
I remember the prayer the oldest daughter of Helen prayed. It wasn't a very good prayer, was it, Auntie Stine?
No, John, it wasn't. We should never tell God what he should do and ask him to answer our prayers just the way that we think they should be answered. Actually, we should rather give him our full trust, just give him all our problems as they are, and trust that he will solve them. Whatever he decides will be for our good.
But somehow God made them come in time for school anyway.
Yes, Hannah, God is amazing. Even when we are struggling to believe him and maybe don't pray the right prayers, he has such a desire to make us know him and make us understand how good he is. And that's why he's even doing things for us when we are not so faithful. When we think back at all the ways God was helping the family in this story, do you remember some of the ways that maybe impressed you?
Yes, he changed the date for when they should go home so that they could reach the States before school started.
I also remember when God tested her faith. Her father-in-law sent her a message that she should travel together with her husband. And she obeyed that, even if she was not really happy with what he had said. And I believe that God blessed that decision.
Sometimes it's hard for us children to obey our parents, but I think it's still worth it. Since God said it in the 10 Commandments, it must be the best.
Yes, God always only asks us for things that will make us happier in the end.
I also liked the part of the story about the furniture. God really arranged that situation very well. It is almost impossible when I think about how God managed to fix that situation with the furniture in the house.
Yes, God really planned that meeting with the old grandma. I think the whole thing must have strengthened the faith of the children so much.
I want to learn to be like that too, to give the situation into God's hands and to know that he will not disappoint us and will fix it eventually.
That's such a nice thought, John. And there is actually a verse in the Bible that talks about giving to God first, and that then he will give us all what we need afterwards. What verse would that be, Hannah?
Do you mean Matthew 6:33?
Yes, I mean Matthew 6:33. Would you like to sing that verse with me now?
Yes!
Of course. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. But seek ye first the kingdom of God. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. But seek ye first the kingdom of God. Matthew 6:33. Matthew 6:33.
As we say goodbye to you, we will sing you another song. Do you remember the story when a little boy came to Jesus with 5 breads and 2 fishes? I guess most of you do. Well, it's lots we can learn from that story. But one of the main lessons is not to despair when we have a problem, as Jesus is there and can help us. He is our answer. Listen to the song and see if you can learn it too.
Master, you see all the people that come. I think we should send them on their way home into a village to buy what they need. So says the master, give ye them to eat. Look not at the multitude of needy, and look not for the bread you cannot see. Look simply at your master there before you. The bread of life, your answer, it is He. There are 5 breads and 2 fishes in store, but for all these people we need much, much more. All of our needs they could never supply. All of the breads we would then need to buy. Look not at the multitude of needy, and look not for the bread you cannot see. Look simply at your master there before you. The bread of life, your answer, it is He. Some breads and fishes in His mighty hands are more than the riches of houses and lands. From